I do too. Here's the thing. Some messages, they write themselves, and this one was one of them. In fact, before I ever told you guys, and I knew we were leaving, God told me to tell you these 3 things. And I don't know how he told me. Maybe I need to hear these 3 things. But I almost didn't do a handout tonight, but I wanted it to be kind of normal, even though it's not normal. And this may be weird for you, but I hope you will let this sink in, whether you take notes or not. So let me tell you guys a story. Look at this picture. This is Ricky and Ruth White. Ricky was my 11th grade English teacher. Miss Ruth was my journalism teacher through high school. I was on the yearbook and paper staff, newspaper back then. And Ricky was my all-time favorite teacher ever. I mean, ever. And Miss Ruth was like having a mom at school, but in a cool way, okay? Not in a, oh my gosh, my mom's at school. But it was like, I knew if I needed something, I could go to Miss Ruth, and I could always go to Mr. Ricky. And Mr. Ricky was, y'all, he's the teacher that I tell you guys about that screamed during the middle of the test. It's him. He always had a nickname for you. He made English fun, and just, I loved it. And that was my junior year. And going into my senior year, I heard that they had moved, that they took a job from Hamburg over to Crosswalk, which is like our rival. I mean, it would be like somebody leaving here and going to chapel kind of thing. It was just like, how could they do this? And Mr. Ricky got a promotion, and Miss Ruth followed. And you know, it kind of bothered me, but I thought, you know what, senior year, I'm not in Mr. Ricky's class. It'll be fine. It was hard, really hard. And I'm telling you this because goodbyes are hard. They just are. And you know, goodbyes are a part of life. If you live with the illusion that you never will say goodbye, that is an illusion. There comes a time, just like Ecclesiastes 3 says, there's a season for everything in life. And I'm like you, I don't like things to change. And I learned my senior year, and I've learned this since because a lot of things have changed in my life, and they probably will in yours as well. You don't ever get over a change. You get through it, okay? You get through it. And here's the thing. I want you to listen to me. You rarely get through it alone, okay? This is not my notes, but I just feel like I need to say it. Don't listen to the voice inside your head that says, well, I'm out. I'm checking out. I'll just, go in here, go in there. Listen, you get through it together. You get through it together. You encourage one another. And you keep coming to church. You keep going to that small group. If you're graduating, you go find that community wherever you're going to college. And you're going to be going through changes too, So you get through it together, okay? It takes time. It's going. If I told you it wouldn't be different, I'd be lying to you. It's going to feel weird at times, okay? Whoever they get up here in the interim is not going to be me, and they don't need to be. Whoever this church hires, and I am praying for him, and I believe God is already working in his life. I don't know who it is. You've been asking me. I don't know. But I know that if he's working in my life, he's working in his life. And I want you to know he's not going to be me, and he does not need to be me. Okay? But even in this middle time, this transition time, it's going to feel a little weird. So how do we get through it? If you don't get over it, you get through it. How do we get through it? There's 3 things I want to share with you, and there are 3 things I hope you will remember. I mean, I hope you will remember this, because I think God wants to say this to me and to you. You guys need to understand, I'm about to change too, and this job is different. It's ministry. It's some of the same things I do with you guys, but they're not going to let me wear a Star Wars shirt on Sunday morning and preach, okay? They're just not, okay? I'm having second thoughts now about going there. Anyway, some of the people are watching. I was joking. Okay, anyway, I love y'all, and I love y'all. How do you get through it, okay? 3 things I want you to remember, okay? Things are changing, but you need to write this down. God will never change. God will never change. You're going to go through so many changes in your life. Things that you chose to do, things that seem to be chosen for you, things that just seem to not make sense in life. You need to remember, God will never change. God will never change. I go to Skygun's car wash occasionally and get my truck cleaned up, Christy's vehicle cleaned up. And I was there yesterday, and there's this house. Many of you know what I'm talking about. It's the R.H. Knox house, I believe. And it was built in 1885. And there's a picture of it from way, way back in the day. I mean, look at how beautiful that house is. It was one of the prettiest houses in Pine Bluff at the time. And then, I don't know, this probably was taken about 15, 20 years ago. It started doing this. It started really getting worn down, and things began to change. I was at Scallions a couple of days ago, and this is what it looks like. You see, here's the thing. We live with the illusion that things don't change. Oh, they do. Sometimes they get better, but sometimes things used to be, and now they're not the same. And that is a part of life. But you know what? The good news is, in an ever-changing world, students, God never does change. You can count on Him. He can be your anchor through the craziest of storms. And where do I come up with this idea that God never changes? Hebrews 13:8. Great verse to memorize. Jesus Christ is the same. Y'all say it with me. Today and forever. Yep, He's the same. Your life may not be the same. Your circumstances might not be the same. The people in your life or not in your life may be different. But Jesus will never, ever leave you. In fact, write this down. The people in your life may change, but Jesus never will. He never will. And you know what? That's something we need to hold on to, okay? I want you to hold on to that thought. And I'm going to go ahead and say this, okay? Church leaders may come and go, but Jesus will always remain the same. He is the constant in your life. And everybody look up here. He's supposed to be the center of your faith. Not me, not your life group leader, Jesus. Because He's the only thing that can't be taken away. Think about it. He's the only thing that's worth worshiping. He's the only thing that's worth trusting. He is the only one. And I want to share this kind of sub-point here. God will never change, and here's the other thing. God will never abandon you. God will never abandon you. I've had a few of you be really real with me, and that's great. I want you to be. Some of you said, hey, it feels like you're abandoning us. It feels like you know, and I don't know what to do with that. Because I got to be real with you, I have guilt there. I don't walk away. But you need to understand, I would never walk away unless the Lord told me to go. You need to know that. It's not like I woke up one day and I was like, man, I don't love teenagers anymore. God said, do you love me? Go. Because God will never abandon you. Deuteronomy 31:8 says, the Lord is the one who will go before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you. He will not abandon you. And I love this part. Don't be afraid or discouraged. Y'all, transitions have a way of making you afraid and making you discouraged. Don't look at the transition. Look at the Father. Look at Jesus. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. He will never, ever, ever abandon you. And so the first thing, how do we get through it? Remember that God will never change. Number two, this is important. We need to remember that the mission will never change, okay? God doesn't change, and the mission He has for us will never change, okay? So, one of my favorite movie series ever is this. Go ahead and hit it, guys. I love it. Anybody ever seen these movies, or am I just the only? Okay. All right. So you notice how in these movie posters, Tom Cruise is like a giant. Have you noticed that? Because he's like the star. Okay. You guys can kill the music. It's going to die anyway. Okay. Go backwards one so it won't play the music. Okay, there we go. All right, so here's the thing. If you don't know the whole idea about Mission Impossible, there's a lot of spy things, covert things, and they're trying to save the day, and they represent an organization that doesn't exist. And like, if you get caught, we're gonna disavow that. We don't even know who you are. And the idea is, no matter what is going on, no matter how hard, how difficult, how demanding the situation is, they're gonna get the mission done. They're gonna finish the task, even if it means Tom Cruise jumping off a bike and paragliding to a train, or he climbs up the big tall building in Dubai, whatever that building's name. I can't think of it. Gage knows it. I don't know. But anyway, okay, good. And I mean, he really did climb that building. There's no stunt double. But they do this because they're trying to complete a mission that's important and that will save lives. Listen to me. Y'all lean in. Our mission, should you choose to accept it, is important, and it will save lives. And the temptation is when something changes, a leader, something happens to you, to just, the last thing you want to do is the mission. The last thing on your mind is that. Y'all, this ought to be the first thing on our minds when you go through a transition. Here's my life verse, Acts 20, verse 23. Paul writes, "My life is worth nothing to me unless I use it for finishing the work assigned me by the Lord Jesus." I hope you get it. The work is assigned to me. The work is assigned to you. I mean, who does the assigning? He does. Okay, for 20 plus years, he assigned the work here for me. Now he's assigning me somewhere else. But here's the thing. The mission, whether it's at Emmanuel and Warren or First Baptist Whitehall, it's the same mission. We're still working together. We don't need to forget it. We don't need to forsake it. So Paul says, my life is worth nothing unless I really use my life to finish the work Jesus gave me. And here's the work of telling others the good news about the wonderful grace of God. Y'all, that's the mission. We're supposed to tell people about the good news of Jesus. We're supposed to show them and tell them. Tell them and show them, okay? So don't forget the mission. So Jesus had 12 disciples. Most of you probably know that. Maybe you're new to church and you didn't, but he had 12 close followers. And he handpicked those followers. The Lord, he went away and he prayed, and God, the Father, led him, and he picked out the 12, and they went with him everywhere for 3.5 years. Can you imagine walking with Jesus for 3.5 years and hearing what he said, seeing what he did, seeing what he didn't do, seeing miracles upon miracles upon miracles upon miracles? And he got to the end of the 3.5 years, and he was arrested, betrayed by one of those disciples, by the way, Judas. I mean, how painful is that? He died on the cross, and 3 days later, God raised him from the dead. That's the gospel. He loved us so much, he died and paid the price for our sin, and he rose from the dead. Now, here's what people don't always think about. They think about the crucifixion on Friday and the resurrection on Sunday, but what we don't think about is that Jesus was resurrected and walked the earth for another 40 days. And there were hundreds of people he saw. It wasn't like there was only 5 people that saw it. And his disciples being one of them. And it came time for Jesus to ascend to heaven. He had done all he was supposed to do. He had left it all on the field. He had done everything the Father had commanded him, and he's literally going to ascend, and he will not come back until it's the end of the world, and he will be riding a horse, and he will be bringing judgment, and he will not be the meek and lowly Jesus. He will be I'm going to kick butt and take names. Can't say that either at Emmanuel. Can't say kick butt. Anyway, but I'm getting that in. Okay, but yeah, he's going to come back. Okay, so he's literally leaving, and he could be saying anything. You know what he says to his 11 closest followers? Matthew 28 is what he says, verses 18 through 20. It says, Jesus came near, he got really close, and he said to them, hey guys, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Because I did exactly what the Father told me. I've got all the authority. And he says, so go and make disciples of all the nations. Baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teach these new disciples to observe everything I have commanded you. And remember, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Y'all, we call that the Great Commission. The word mission is in commission. It's Jesus not saying, hey, y'all, if you get bored, tell them about me. Hey, if you want to, maybe 2 of you want to do it. No, guys, these are orders. These are like, you do this. These are marching orders. This is the mission we're supposed to do. Whether I'm up here or whoever's up here, the mission never changes. Okay? So here's the mission. I'm going to remind you one more time. Some of you have heard this before. Some of you are like, wow, I didn't know this. Here's the mission, okay? We're supposed to reach them so that they will believe. We're supposed to baptize them so that they will belong. And we're supposed to teach them so that they will become. Okay? Pretty simple deal. Anybody recognize believe, belong, become? Anybody recognize it? Okay. It's below the logo, okay? And I'm not saying that logo is going to be the same logo. That's not the point. But the mission is the same. And you're like, but isn't the order weird? Don't you have belong, believe, become? Yep. Here's the reason why. Some of you are testimony of this. You have to belong before you can believe a lot of times. Do you know that the 12 disciples that Jesus called, they belonged way before they believed? They literally went for 3 years before it clicked in their brain. Oh, wow, that's what he meant. So they belonged before they believed. And so listen, the mission is we need to tell people about Jesus so they might believe. We can't make them believe, but they won't believe if you don't tell them. We've got to baptize them so that they will be a part of our fellowship. That's more than dunking in the water. That's loving people and making them feel welcome. Y'all, we can dunk people in the water all day, but if we're unfriendly and we don't care and people sit by themselves and we don't notice and we don't make an effort, y'all, this ought to be the most loving place in this town. Okay? And the devil wants to make it the opposite. So we're to baptize them and then we're to teach them. Y'all, you teach like I'm doing right now, but you also teach in the way you live. Being an example when you're not in this building. On the team, on the squad, in your fourth period class, with the person that's difficult. You teach believers, by the way, so that they may be more like Christ, so they can grow in their faith. Y'all, that's the mission. Okay? And here's the last thing under this point. I hope you get this. Our circumstances should never change our mission, okay? Don't let this transition get you off the mission. Y'all need to know. Being here at church is important. Doing what God tells you to do is important. Going to camp, serving other people, telling people about the gospel, bringing them to Crosswalk, showing up on Sunday morning, hearing Brother Paul preach at the main service with other believers. All those things are super, 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 super important. Don't let your circumstances change the mission. So God will never change. The mission will never change. And point number 3 is so hard, I don't know if I can get through it. Christy and I, the love we have for you won't change either. Okay? I hope you believe that. I hope you believe that. Listen, just because we're leaving doesn't mean we don't care about you. We do. I know it may feel that way, but we do. We love you. And my address may be changing, but my love for you is not, okay? And I hear Whitehall is coming to Warren to play this year. Am I correct on that? Yes. So our house will be open after the game. Anyway. Thank you, Joe, for that analysis. September what? Okay, cool. September 7th. All right. Listen up. We're almost done. Listen up. Guys, listen, this is important. I'm almost done, and this is hard to believe I'm almost done, but I want you to hear me, okay? And I feel like I'm maybe saying too much, but when I came here many years ago, it was extremely hard. Whoever comes here after me, it's going to be extremely hard. Love him. Support him. Listen to him. Love on his wife. Love on if they have kids, love on their kids. Y'all, the mission's important. God is important. Love them the way you loved us, okay? Do that. Philippians chapter 1, Paul is writing the church at Philippi. He's in prison, okay? The theme of the book is joy. I'm actually going to preach on verse 6 of this Sunday morning for Grad Sunday. I hope you'll come back for that. But Paul opens his letter, and he does a lot of stuff and says a lot of things. You know, I love you guys and all that. But I wanted to read this because this really sums up the way I feel about you, okay? And here's what it is. It says, every time I think of you, I give thanks to my God. And you know I do that for you guys. Whenever I pray, I make my request for all of you with joy. For you've been my partners in spreading the good news about Christ from the time you first heard it until now. And I am certain that God, who began the good work in you, will continue his work until it is finally finished on that day when Jesus Christ returns. God will never change. The mission will never change. And my love for you will never change. Okay? I asked my good friend Elliot to come and lead us in worship tonight. And I just think it's appropriate. Because remember, it's really all about Jesus. It really is. And I'm going to pray. Elliot, you can come on up while I pray. And you don't have to come forward yet, students, but I just want to pray over you guys. And then we're going to gather around the stage and we're going to worship. And then, guys, I'm going to be over in the gym. Come over and sign those pictures. Would love to get a picture. Love to give you a hug. Hope you'll come back Sunday. Let's pray. Lord, I'm praying, Lord, that this is a good goodbye. And Lord, it's really good because you are not leaving. And so, Lord, I'm praying over these students. I pray that their faith would not waver. I pray that this hardship would only make them stronger. I pray, Lord, that your Spirit would just have his way in a way that has never happened before through this group, Lord. And Lord, I will never forget these kids. So God, as we gather around this stage together, I just pray, Lord, that you would speak to our hearts wherever we are. I want to pray for the student who's here tonight, and they're going through a lot. God, would you remind them that you are here? You're a very present help in times of trouble. Lord, for the student that's really struggling with this change, would you remind them, Lord, that you're not going anywhere? And God, we need to praise you right now more than